there.
How you
Good
doing?
afternoon. Hi, everyone. Hi, good, good.
Great.
Good to hear you.
Good to hear you too. Elaine, are you there? You are muted if perhaps you're trying to say something, but we cannot hear you. And Don as well. Jim, have you met virtually Elaine and Don?
Hi
Don
guys.
I think I've spoken to before. I don't think I've ever spoken to Elaine. This is Jim. But
Okay.
it's good to have all you guys here. And Donald, is Charles going to be on the call? Do you know?
He's in Seattle. He might be able to join us. He initially indicated that he will join, but I'm not sure if he's going to join. So, Sue, are you using your phone? You mind just trying to call him and finding out if he's going to join us?
Yeah, no, it's no worries either way. I just would, sometimes he's able to step out of something else and
Right.
jump on, but other times he's not. But
Mm-hmm.
it's 2:00, and I think pretty much everybody else that was going to be here is here. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we should just get started. And if Charles is able to join us for a few minutes, that's fine. So good afternoon, everyone. I think I've spoken to everyone except Elaine before, but just to refresh everybody's memory, my name's Jim Kucher, and I've been working with Charles and Donald on various strategies for both the Service for Peace project and the All Lights Village project. A couple of quick housekeeping things. I had asked for this call to be recorded. Hi, Donna. Donna's here as well. And on the line with us today is a colleague of mine, Kara Kunst, who's our chief researcher, and is going to be taking all of this information and pulling it together. So we're recording so that Kara can go back and listen. So since this is a large group, and since we're recording it, I would like to ask that whenever somebody speaks, and also because we don't really quite know everybody's names, and this whole GoToMeeting site thing, I track it, but I don't track it well. So if we could just kind of identify who you are when you talk, that would be wonderful. The purpose of today's call is to go through these shared documents that we've been building and whoever, I guess that's Jory. If you could mute your audio, please. Whoever that is that just came on, if you could mute your audio, please. Thank you. So anyway, the purpose of the conversation is to go through this list and do two things. The first one is to get people's reactions. So if there's a comment that somebody made that you have a question about, or that you want to talk about in any way, that you agree, disagree, whatever it might be, that's part of the purpose. And then the other one is to expand on anything that you've posted that you want to sort of talk about or lobby for. So in the interest of keeping everybody on the same page, literally, Donald or Philip, I'm not sure which one is going to do their best to follow along. So in addition to identifying yourself, if you could refer to the line on this document that you're talking about so everybody can kind of follow along, I think that would be a big help. So that's kind of the preamble to this, and Kara and I are primarily going to be in listening mode. I may ask a few clarifying questions, but I think Kara's mostly typing notes madly. She's also in an audio challenged environment at the moment. She's on the road today, so it's better if she doesn't turn her mic on anyway. So that's the preamble to the conversation. I don't have any particular order for any individual person to speak, but there are two stages to this project. We talked a little bit about this the last time all of us were on the call together. The first one is to try to identify what's going on in the communities. That's the market needs page. And then the second one is try to identify what sort of solutions may be out there. And then we'll be going through and doing a matching process and making some recommendations about what we think the best matches. So if there's a solution that you're particularly in love with, this is a good time to lobby for it as well. So that's the purpose of the call. So whoever has a burning desire to speak, feel free. I realize there's a lag here because people have to come off mute and all that sort of stuff. But,
okay, thanks, Jim. I don't know if I guess you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I feel I was offline for a bit, so I'm not sure if I'm still if you can still see my screen. So I might have to just give you the screen because my connection is really bad. But meanwhile, whoever has anything to share can just go ahead and okay, Phil, you get the link to share the screen?
Este efectivo también es relativo, porque acá hay una entrega de carne 4.200.000. Esto es correcto. Acá ya hay arreglo de cuentas sin el archivo. 4 millones.
Welcome to GoToMeeting. There are 10 other callers on the call.
Hello? Okay, good. At least Elaine can hear me. Anyone else who can hear me?
Yes, this is Karen. I can hear you.
Oh, good. I thought I was talking to myself. Thanks. All right. So just saying that I shared the screen with Phil. I'm not sure if Phil is still online, so I'm just going to just go ahead and make myself the presenter. I don't get a response from Phil. So how we could go about it, Jim, to make it easier, so probably, for people to just go through, because we have here, as you can see on my screen, the observer and the comment they put. And on my screen, we have Jana. She made a comment on the Dominican Republic. Jana, if you want to share a little bit about your finding, if anyone has any comment, and we have JK, that's Jim. We have Joy, coming from Paraguay. Joy, you made several comments and contributions. And I'm not sure who put this from the World Bank. So if you can just jump in and put in, any comments that you have. So this is for the market needs. And then on the other page, which is the current solution, also we have Jana, who made a comment here, and Phil and Garrett, Jean, Joy. And I also shared this link via email. So whoever wants to just jump in. Jana, do you want to just go ahead and share a bit about, your comments based on what you shared or on what you found out from the other comments that were posted here?
Hi, everyone. Is Johan supposed to be on the call?
Oh, no, he's not.
Oh, okay, because he probably has more accurate information than I do about DR.
Okay. No.
Because they made this comment a while ago, and I don't know if they've, I posted this comment a while ago, and I don't know if they've moved on from that. But I guess a basic environmental scan of the community in the Dominican Republic where we're thinking to implement ALV. The problem situation right now is that they have extremely limited access to electricity. It's provided through the normal channels that anyone would receive electricity through, but the companies are very unreliable. So they generally get an average of about 2 hours of electricity a day in the evening, and pretty much live without electricity for the vast majority of the day on a day-to-day basis. The impact would be increased productivity, so that means that children can be studying, they can be in the household together as a family, they can be doing schoolwork, they can be doing more schoolwork that might motivate them to then go on to high school. Most kids in the community, I think it's in the single digits percentage of students go on to pursue high school education in this community. So if they were more dedicated, had more work, that might impact their willingness to go on. Also, the community is pretty much the biggest source of employment for them is agriculture, and because they're oftentimes leaving when it's still dark to go to the fields, coming back when it's already dark, it can be dangerous. There's lots of water, there's lots of rocks, it's on cliffs, so all that kind of stuff. And then one of the things that the team in DR and Johan and the community members have been working on is understanding what might be the best technology and devices for that community. So far, they're thinking it would be best to have a single device per household to start, and they'd of course like to build some kind of model so that community members are contributing a certain amount, or they're contributing some kind of, whether that be money or sweat equity or something like that, so that it really is kind of an empowerment process versus we're just giving you these lights that you're not going to take care of. Johan has already started researching some distributors, and he has a pretty good contact that's actually very close to the office in the DR. So they've already gone through some of the pricing and quotes and understanding how the technology works, and I think that was where we left off. Was that last week, Donald?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
last week.
So that's our short report from DR. That's as far as I know, at least.
All right, great. Thanks, Jenna, for representing Johan.
No problem.
Okay, and what you shared here is pretty much based off of the information that you have. All right. So, if anyone has any comments, or Jenna, if you also have comments for other thoughts or links that were shared by other team members, you can just also go ahead and share. I'm going to skip perhaps Jim, and then ask Jory. Jory, if you have anything you want to share from, the links that you shared here, or any comments that you would like to make for the other links that we shared.
Okay. Would the time be to do that now, or?
Yeah, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay. Well, generally, what I posted is sort of very broad demographic data that's available from public sources, mostly from international organizations that post their databases. I have not been able to go, back up to the region. I have not been able to meet with the Secretary of Indigenous Affairs in the province that we are working in right now. Most of what I found has to do with there was one article on how best, one proven technique for bringing communities out of poverty, which had to do with connecting them to the value chain in other larger food markets, say through a cooperative or whatever. Not only being connected to the cooperative and producing crops as they used to, but most of that not totally relevant to what we were doing. As far as access to electricity goes, with the proposed program for the lanterns, what I found was that there is actually a rather high rate of connectivity to sources of electricity, even in the rural areas. Now, there are many indigenous communities, well, not many, but there are indigenous communities who have yet to connect to the grid but those communities may be a little bit contentious to work with because there are many NGOs who are involved in wanting to preserve their lifestyle. So I guess what I've sort of learned is that depending on where people are on their access to technology, if they have a little bit of access to technology, people don't object to giving them more and wanting them to develop. But if they have virtually none, then there's almost more of an interest in preserving their lifestyle than wanting them to develop. So probably the communities that we would want to end up working with are those sort of on the outskirts of other cities. And I guess, again, about the electricity issue, maybe something other than a power generator or just giving them supply to some source of electricity might be better. The largest areas of need that I found were sanitation and access to drinking water. That's the first link I put up. The multi-dimensional poverty index. And if you click on that link, it shows that in rural areas, the largest contributors to that index were sanitation and cooking fuel. And then after that was drinking water. So I really think water is a big area of need for improvement. Basically, the terrain out there are large, sort of just swaths of land with palm trees growing out. It's clay soil, so whenever it rains, usually the water stays at the top of the soil, sort of creating these seasonal swamps, if you will. And although, what do you call it? Although wetlands like that are nature's water purifiers, they also create great breeding environments for mosquitoes. Also, when they get connected to latrines or other sewer systems, they tend to just stagnate and create health issues for the communities. They also use the water for cleaning their clothes and drinking. So something to create a secure and safe water supply might be good. What they have currently in many of the communities are what are called Australian wells as well, where they just build up a large round wall of clay in an area, wait for rain to fill it, and then with a windmill they'll pump that water that was collected up into a water tank. But they have no filtration or way of eliminating microorganisms to make the water any safer, etc. So I guess if I could, in conclusion, water may be a greater area of need than electricity, and the communities that we are our target communities should probably be among the ones that already have electricity anyway, because the other ones are protected by other human rights NGOs who are less interested in them developing and more interested in preserving their lifestyle.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Jerry, for that contribution. I got kicked off from online a few minutes ago, so Phil must be Phil is probably showing his screen, so you're probably seeing Phil's screen now. Okay, thanks, Jerry. Anyone else would like to add on to respond to Jerry? Or perhaps maybe first of all we can just go through what each individual shared, and then just go back to to like an open discussion. I'm not sure who posted the information on World Bank. Phil, that's right at the bottom of the screen.
That was us. That was us, Donald.
Oh, okay.
That was
okay,
Jim.
Great.
That was Jim and Kara put that in there.
Okay. Phil, you can perhaps go on to the next, to the other screen. I'm not sure. So this one is the market needs. There's another screen. Okay, on the current solution. So we have Jana, Phil, Garrett, and so forth and so on. So Phil, you want to go ahead and share what you have, or Garrett?
Yeah, this is Phil. So what I got was
Go ahead.
yeah, okay. Yeah, so what I got was some affordable lamps that were being sold. They're being sold in El Salvador, and basically, when I was looking at the pricing, they're sold as a kit, so it's something that includes a lamp, and then some study lamps, and a radio, and a large solar panel. And so I was looking at the cost of individual lamps for the home and what would be contained in that whole kit. And it looked like what these guys were offering, considering it eliminates shipping prices as well, uh, because they also have some local offices in the DR, but then they are mainly based out in El Salvador. I thought, yeah, I thought their prices were pretty competitive. So I asked them. They sent me back another catalog last week on how they can also break down the kit if we wanted to do away with things that we didn't really need, like a solar radio and stuff. So I can also put it on the file.
Okay, great. Thanks, Phil. So this is from El Salvador?
Yeah, they're based out
Okay.
of El Salvador. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, hey Donald, this is Gareth. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Gary. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, my the one I came across, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's on the screen there. It's called Social Light. It involves the Cooper Union in New York and a polytechnic in Ghana. And it's a kind of a centralized system. There's a large solar panel that charges one central battery, car battery. And then individual families have the lamps, which are then charged from that central car battery. So they buy their lamps for $4 or $5, and then they there's a $1 to $2 a month recharging fee. So it's very easy to become involved in this within the community. One reason I liked it is that there's kind of a central structure, so it's a community-based system, which makes it easy then to maintain and to monitor. If we distribute solar lanterns throughout the community, that makes it more difficult to check on how things are doing, follow up on maintenance needs. If it's centralized, I'm just thinking of the community in the Dominican Republic where we have a good relationship with them. This is something it seems that they'd be able to do. So there's one central point. So for us to be able to check in on how this is doing, there'd be a central point in the community where they would be aware of all of the issues, maintenance issues, and so on. So I thought it was an interesting system for a community-based development model, just for the simplicity of maintenance and being able to check in on how it's doing and any issues that the people are confronting. And that was it.
Right. Okay, great. Interesting. Did you share a link here? I don't see a link.
Yeah, right. If you go down just below the text at the bottom, it's from The Economist.
Okay.
The article was in The Economist.
Oh, I think you shared it
in the
email also. Okay. I can't see it, but anyway.
You keep going down with the cursor at the
Oh,
bottom
okay,
of the
okay,
screen.
right here. Okay, I got it.
Let me-
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember seeing this. Okay, thanks, Gareth.
Okay.
Okay, and the rest also came from Jory. Donna sent in some comments in the chat box. Donna, you want to go ahead and just also share what you probably any findings from your end, market needs, the current solutions, and also your comments.
Hello, this is Donna. I don't have any new information to add. I have a question. I found Gareth's article very interesting, and I was curious what the impact was of $4 to $5 for a lamp and $1 to $2 a month for recharging. Is that a lot of money for an individual or family? Thank you.
Janet's probably got a better handle
Great
on.
question, Donna. Thank you.
Hi, Janet, do you have a answer to that one?
Sorry, Donna, you're asking if based on Gareth's model, if that's expensive for families in the DR?
Yes, that's our doable.
I think Johan would be better to answer. I don't know if I can say, I think it's affordable, but I don't know if I could say whether or not families would be willing to fork over that money. It seems like if it's really only, in the single digits of dollars, probably that's less than they're paying for traditional electricity, and of course that's extremely ineffective. And I think what Johan had researched in terms of installing the actual lights, that's a lot cheaper. So I don't know if that price includes purchasing and installing the actual source or not, but it seems like a very affordable option.
Thank you this is Donna. Thanks a lot, Janet.
Yeah,
No
the
problem.
article
This
in
is really
The
interesting.
Economist. Hello? The article in The Economist said that usually it enabled the villagers to pay for the entire system within 18 months or so.
Okay.
Yeah, and those fees. I was just looking at it as an entry into this. The $4 to $5 would definitely be less than the cost of purchasing the lamp outright, which was the other model we were looking at. Do you have any idea what a ballpark figure on how much the lamps are that Joanne was looking at?
I don't remember, but Donald, do you have a copy of that presentation he made?
I have it somewhere. I have to search it through my email.
I think it was I think they were thinking to purchase 100 units, and it would have been something like 50,000 with the product and installation and shipping and everything.
Yeah, it was around 50,000, including a generator, I think.
This is Jim. Who was it that made that presentation?
Johan.
Johan.
In the Dominican Republic.
I'll share that email, Jim. The presentation.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Gareth. Elaine, do you want to share something from is Elaine still here? Yes. From Kenya and London from the Philippines. Any findings, market solutions, any contributions from you folks?
Sure, I can share about Kenya. This is Elaine. As I mentioned before to Donald, to you, and to Gareth through email with Dr. Phillips, I like Gareth's community model, not only in terms of helping to work within one community like a village with families, but in Kenya we were looking more so at a business model. so some kind of social business impact. And what we were thinking about, we have a lot of informal business structures in Kenya, and the government is trying to formalize informal business. And so we have a lot of marketplaces that operate into the evenings and are run by women and young guys and girls. And the model we were looking at was to see if we could put in the solar lights in maybe the market areas, and then have some of the proceeds made from the people selling go back towards creating a community fund of a sort, and then that community fund being used kind of as a micro credit scheme of a sort. It's still a process in development, but we're trying to figure out how these lights can, the way Jory was saying, instead of it just being a lighting mechanism or something that helps with infrastructure, go into something larger, income generation, and kind of build the community up. So that's what I can share about the model from Kenya. We haven't done as much research as maybe what has been going on for Dominican Republic or El Salvador. We're still kind of doing our research and trying to see what's available locally, or what all the solar that's in Kenya is imported. But we're trying to figure out, of the imported companies here, what's the most affordable, what has the longest lifespan, what more does it offer? Is it just like one big battery, as Gareth is mentioning, that would be shared by the whole community, or is there a newer technology that's better for the landscape? And then we were also looking into a model where, if it works in business for a marketplace, how can we then transition that to maybe working with peri-urban communities and transit towns, where it's like the villagers themselves are also brought into a business scheme. Either they get a loan from this community fund that's initially started off by the guys working in informal business, or something like that. But like I said, it's still a work in process. We're still researching. We have an intern here from School for International Training who's helping us with this model. So I can keep updating the group as we have a bit more to share in the future. So that's what I'll say for Kenya for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. It will also be helpful if you could just put, some of the findings that you have on this Google document, Elaine. You can probably just post it here, so that it could help when Jim compiles the final the report. So I hope you'll be able to just post some of the information on the Google Doc. But thanks for sharing.
This is Jim. Can I ask Elaine a question, please?
Go ahead, Jim.
Elaine, you mentioned this marketplace that is sort of loosely organized. Is your sense that having some additional ability and access to electricity would allow the marketplace to operate more efficiently or effectively, longer hours, anything of that? Do you have any sense of any of those issues?
Yes, that's correct. Not only those that you mentioned, but also in terms of insecurity. The place where the market is in the evenings tends to be a bit unsafe, so people have to close business by maybe 8:30, and they can go all the way into 11 o'clock, but they wouldn't, because by 7 o'clock people are already starting to get a bit nervous about their surroundings. So
okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Help. Yeah, that would definitely help a lot.
Yeah. Do you feel that there is consumer demand for those extra hours? I mean, it's one thing to say that they could be open. It's another thing to say, and I apologize if I'm making very narrow distinctions here, but it's one thing to say they're open. It's another thing to say they're open and have customers. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Do you feel that there's consumer demand for these extended hours?
Yes, because a lot of these places tend to be around transit towns. So what will happen is people on their way from work would want to pass by and pick up a couple of things before getting home, and might not be able to go into the city center proper to get those same items. So if there was a way to keep that area lit, so that as I leave work, I can pass through that marketplace, pick up what I need, and then proceed home because of our traffic situation, people get home a bit later in the evenings. So there's a high demand. It's just that people weigh their options and wouldn't want to be somewhere safe to get goods. They would rather even go into town where it's safer to shop and waste an hour instead of just going to the market, which is closer, or on their way home to get the same merchandise. If that makes any sense.
That's great. Thank you. I'd be curious in the other countries, the voices that have spoken up for the other countries, the notion of electricity as a security issue as opposed to, you know, some of the earlier initiatives that we've looked at here, both for this program and for others, are more around enabling process, meaning that you have light so that you can perform tasks, or that you have light so that you can power machinery. I'm curious whether anybody else has any thoughts about this security issue and how relevant that might be in their communities.
This is Jana. For DR at least, Elaine, that's a really interesting point. And I think for our community is quite rural and it's quite safe. So I don't think security is a huge issue for that community. The only thing, and this is pretty minor compared to just generally enabling and empowering the community to kind of just live a better life, there is the issue of people working during when it's still dark out, so whether it's dawn or dusk, in the fields and then coming home, so that can be dangerous for them. And I don't think there's not often injuries, but there have been, and so that would be very minor. But in terms of crime or those kinds of things, I don't think it's so much of an issue.
Thanks.
Hi, so this is Jory on the topic of impact of having lighting on security in the communities in rural Paraguay. Well, the reason why at least in my train of thought I had been going away from electricity is the knowledge that there is actually already a high connectivity rate. I'm sure that in the communities where they don't, never mind, maybe I should say the rural communities who are in the most need, the indigenous communities who are sort of outside of satellites to the cities that are connected to roads are, I guess I may have already alluded to, not connected by roads, say. And they're somewhat insular, so there's not a lot of traffic among strangers or out-of-towners going in and out that they would necessarily have to be protected from. But in addition to that, again, the fact that they have access, even in those communities, to electricity maybe would simply mean that it would have not as high upside potential as it would in maybe some of the other countries like Dominican Republic or Kenya.
That's great, Troy. Thank you.
Sorry.
Don, anything to share from the Philippines? I know it's probably really late now or early morning, Wednesday morning. So I hope you're with us. Anything to share from your end, Don?
Yes, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks for coming in. You can go ahead, Don. We can hear you.
All right. For the past 2 years that we are doing the All Lights Village, because we are the Korean team initiated the program with the Philippines, so it's been 2 years that we are implementing the All Lights Village here in the Philippines, and now we have like over 20 communities already. One very important impact is for the children of the
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing the speaker. Would it be possible to turn up the mic volume, or if everybody else is fine, then I guess there's no need. But
Yeah, Don, could you speak up a little louder? Or just increase maybe the volume of your
all right,
microphone.
sorry, thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
I'm adjusting my mic. I hope you can hear me well now.
Yeah, a little better. Thanks.
All right. All right. For the past 2 years that we are doing the All Lights Village, one important impact is the children of the families who received the solar lanterns from Korea um, were able to go back to the formal school, like in the elementary schools, because when when the time that they don't still have the solar lanterns, the children cannot study in the evening, so they lose interest in going to the school, so they end up out of school and just hanging around in the community. So when we were talking to the families in the pioneer areas of All Lights Village in the provinces that we are serving, it's very they share to us that one impact is that their kids um, brought back the interest in going to the school, and also for the parents to they can already do some of their jobs in the evening because of the lights. And then um, if there's a crucial initiative that we have to do with our Olex Village is just like Korea, the marketing of or supporting the sustainability of our Olex Village here in the Philippines. We have to develop a business model wherein we will see to it that all the All Lights Villages will be a self-reliant communities in the future. Um, so meaning what we need now is really a sustainability model to maintain the the communities of all lives and give them some livelihood according to their needs and that they themselves identified, and then the whole cycle of the sustainability according to the community-based development process. I think that's what we need now in the Philippines. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Don. And again, thanks for calling in early Wednesday morning. Um, okay. Any reactions to that? Jim, I'm gonna pass it back to you for any specific questions or comments from your end. And I also see that Dr. Phillips is also here. So perhaps we might also give him a chance to share what he has at the end if he's able to talk. But I'm going to give it back to you, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for your input and your thoughts. They're all very valuable. And Donald, if you can collect the other information, that presentation, and the other issues there. And then, Jana, you had mentioned somebody collecting some additional data and some vendors and some pricing. If you could forward that along, that would be great. Donna, I saw your note about Don's comment. We are recording this, so anybody who wants to can listen to those comments. I think, Donna, actually, you raised a question about pricing, and part of what I wanted this discussion to be was folks who had questions or additional thoughts about any of this information that we've been talking through in terms of usefulness. We had a good discussion about the security issue as well. And I'm hoping that if anybody has any of those type of thoughts, that they could share them. I don't have a real process for that other than to just let anybody sort of chime in who wants to ask a question. But I think it's worthwhile to spend a few minutes kind of going through any of those thoughts if anybody has them. I realize that creates the usual uncomfortable minute of silence in a conference call. But, okay, well, hearing none or seeing none. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just wanting to reiterate the question. So is the question about how the different plan or devices will fit into a sustainability model that brings them out of their current impoverished condition? Is that, I may have just completely invented that in the fantasy in my mind, but is that, was that the question?
Thank you very much for that. That is not the question. That is
not the question.
Okay. That is a subsequent question. Right now, what we're trying to do is really just a raw data dump. We're not trying to ask you to make a recommendation about a solution. We're just trying to say what's going on in each of these communities, what's going on in the field, both from a needs standpoint and from any solutions that anybody's seen. So, you know, Jory, your point about the fact that, from your perspective in Paraguay, that electricity may not be the biggest issue, that's huge information from my perspective. So it really is an open data dump. We're not asking anybody to design a solution and then submit it. We're asking to just gather as much information as we can in a big pile, and then we're going to try and sort through that and see where there are things that match up and where are the things that don't match up. And quite frankly, the fact that electrification may not be a big need in the community, that's a big thing that takes a lot of other things and says, well, it doesn't match up with the actual need. So, you know, we don't want to bring a solution into a community that doesn't solve a problem.
Okay.
So, does that help?
Yes, yes. And in that line of data dump sort of justification, I wonder if an anecdote might be useful. My experience going to one of the indigenous, actually a few of the indigenous communities up in Alto Paraguay a couple of months ago, to sort of their stage of economic development. Okay, well, when I did go there, there were a number of communities that had brick buildings with tin roofs, which usually received a lot of, well, a lot to them, international aid. Electrical, what do you call it, the telephone poles that carry the electrical lines had been donated by foreign governments and such. There were other communities out further who were also connected to electricity, but were still building their homes out of fallen trees with thatched roofs. And yet, even in those communities, they had been recently building schools. They seemed to be well fed. They had animals all around. But the one thing that I did, that we were there to look at, actually, I had gone to visit them together with the Secretary of Environment and the Secretary of Agriculture for that province, just sort of tagging along. And what we were there to look at was their Australian well. I forget if you call it an Australian well or Australian tank. Again, the mud walls built around to collect rainwater, which they then pump up to a water tower. That week, it had just started the rainy season, and it had rained about 112, if I remember correctly, millimeters of rain just a few days, 10 days ago. and they were already out of water because their system of collecting rain in the Australian wells were not very efficient, and there was a lot of leakage and seepage through the walls, etc. So that was one area need that I witnessed when I was there. The other was as we were visiting their farms together with the agricultural secretary, it occurred to me what a different, whole world or civilization this is from the one that I, from my culture that I come from. Going out, we had asked them to show us, where their farms were. They walked us out about 2 kilometers into the woods, and then there was a clearing with this cleared land and nothing growing. And we asked them, what had happened. And well, what had happened was that the year before, the government came and helped them to flatten out the land, to till it and everything, and help them to grow their first cycle of crops. At the end of which they ate everything, including the seeds, and had nothing left to plant the next day. So it occurred to me, how is that possible? My idea of rural cultures is that they're very in tune with this kind of thing, and they would always know to save seed. Well, in fact, the communities that we're dealing with up there, they are formerly, nomadic tribes that have been forced to settle and stay in sedentary, delineated communities, which they had never done before. Their traditional way of finding food did not involve raising crops and saving seed for the next year. So that's sort of the level, their stage right now of adapting and adapting to modernization, I guess, and just the government's practice of drawing lines around land has forced them to do this. So that's another point to me in favor of working with them and educate them in the ambit of water management, because they don't have irrigation either. When it rains, it floods and destroys things. When there's a drought, everything dries up and gets destroyed. So if we could somehow do a program, this is not the stage for it, so I'll just skip that part. But if somehow our spending could, add not only to their physical capital there, but also to their, human capital in know-how, how to dig trenches for irrigation, to prevent floods and to bring water to the fields when there's a drought, how to keep sewage away from sources of water where they wash their clothes or where they drink and use the water to cook. There's a great area of need and huge potential impact, I think, in that. I guess in the interest of not taking too much time, all in there.
That's great. Thank you. And it also indicates, a couple of things. For one, 2 of the scenarios that you mentioned, in my mind, bring up the mechanical questions of pumping. Pumping water in for irrigation, pumping sewage out for sanitary purposes. And to circle back to our electricity issue, that's what runs pumps. So, it's exactly those sort of intertwined scenarios that we're looking to tease out in this process. So to that end, your story was quite helpful, and I would say to everyone else who's on the call, if that helps, if what Jory just shared and my links to the electricity that we just made helps change your thinking in this, then it's been time very well spent. And I would encourage you, if you have those sorts of things to share, to continue to populate the information sheets with any of those sorts of connections that we might have. Dr. Phillips, I see you've been sitting in the background there. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to this, but we've had some good exchanges here.
Hi there, everyone. As you know, I'm in a different program with a different schedule and came out late. I know everybody's been on for almost an hour, but I was wondering if people could very briefly state what they've gotten out of this, and then that would give me kind of a update, and then I can share a little bit about what is going on here in relationship to AVP. Is that possible, or? Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. I was keeping quiet in hopes that the group would share more.
Does that sound workable to everyone, or do you need to get off, or just, or if you want to share, you can share, and not necessarily everyone. But don't all speak at the same time. I can't hear you.
Well, I can say it has maybe realigned. I mean, brought me back to where exactly we are in the stage of this. You know, my mind wants to, you know, skip steps and jump to conclusions instead, but rather to focus on the data gathering step first. I think if we're still there, I need to do more of that. So that's what I gained from the meeting.
Great, thanks.
I think likewise, this is Jana. Likewise, I would say I think this has been helpful in that, particularly Elaine and Jory, I want to thank you for kind of bringing up, or I guess pulling us back from just focusing on we need to install the lights, we need to find the right lights, we need to install them, versus really understanding holistically what the need is, what the impact might be, and thinking beyond what happens when we install the lights, what other things do they need. Jory especially, I love that you're thinking about how can we use this as an opportunity to also increase human capital. And so certainly I'll be speaking with Johan about how we can kind of include some of those things in our progress with the DR.
And hi, this is Gareth. One point that was being reinforced is the need for education, and Dr. Phillips had already mentioned that at the meeting that he is at, that this is being emphasized for the All Lights Village project, that the educational component, the whole community-based development component, is so essential that we really need to flesh that out. So this is not just about solar lights, this is about working with the community to address whatever are the most urgent needs in the community. So the solar lights can be a part of that, but they're not the be-all and end-all of the program. There's a need for full engagement with the community. So this is a program that identifies and works with a small number of specific communities. It's not a mass distribution of solar lights. And I think from what we're hearing from Jory and from Elaine, from Don Don, it just reinforces that broader educational community-based development program is so essential beyond just the lights themselves.
This is Donna. I agree with what everybody has said. I'm in my mind, and maybe Phil is doing this at the same time. I can almost imagine a mind map of community needs and how a solar generation of electricity to power meeting other needs begins to be a part of the educational process. And what I really like is the fact that we're not going in saying, this is what you need, and it'll fix your problem, but really looking at it as a tool to address the other community needs, and the community needs really come from the people themselves. And I also would like to state the obvious, that I really am very appreciative of everybody's time and all the work that they're doing with this. Thank you.
Does that help, Charles?
Yeah, that certainly did. I was just had a little pause there to make sure no one else wanted to. Maybe I'll just loop you in with what's been happening here. Actually, interestingly, I just finished a session where all of the groups that had different stages of All Lake Village programs going on in their countries were sort of sharing their best practices as well as their challenges. And you know, a course from Kenya, kind of the very innovative model where, you know, there's now a funder from Korea who's contributing to UN Habitat, and then now UN Habitat is giving the funding to GPF to carry out the All Lakes Village. It's interesting because, you know, we had, when we first met with UN Habitat, we had a bit of a challenge with them because they didn't understand our development model, because it seemed to be distributing solar lamps, and also they're coming from another country. Anyway, they had a lot of issues with that. But, and I think this goes back to the being genuine in delivering the needs that the community have, because in this case also it's coming from organization Grand Korea Leisure. And I think this is for a community hall, right, Elaine? Is she still on the call? Or maybe she's silenced. But anyway, I think it's not distributing.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, that's for a community hall, right?
No, not a community hall. The model is that we're doing it with schools, and it's a two-prong approach where one prong is they get the solar. Hopefully, the solar is installed, and the youth can be trained to learn about solar technologies, and eventually at some point start developing solar technologies in Kenya locally. So that's very, very long term. And in the short term, the solar is being used to to light greenhouses and marketplaces, so that there's a bit of income generation for the community that is doing the projects. Sorry, I'm a bit loopy. I'm getting I'm getting tired.
Oh, great, even better. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
thanks for that. And I think that's similar to how, you know, it's Jim was listening to Jory's report, and, you know, it kind of like, it wasn't just that, oh, they don't need solar lamps, but, you know, he heard the issue of the rainfall and thought, you know, well, is there a, you know, energy connection to that helps with the immediate need, and also listening to those that were having challenges, and the challenges that people were having were trying to skip steps and go out and quickly go through the program, you know. So there was one place in Indonesia, they gave out the lamps, they made the community hall, they gave out money for making a chicken farm, and within 1 month all the chickens were dead. And, you know, they had finished giving out the lights and everything. He is there sort of figuring like, is this it? This is it? This is what you're doing? You know, so I think kind of what they're realizing is a need for having a process that goes through this, and as Gareth was mentioning also, to really have a educational program with very basic kind of, almost dealing more with kind of values than a how-to book, values in terms of, of course, something on work ethic and like I guess in the case of Jory's thing of, having planning, thinking ahead and those kind of things, very basic things that you're giving to the community that we were hearing that actually they need before having this kind of implementation. Also, just this is a little scattered because I'm just coming from, but also there's, I can see that what we're doing here, of course, our focus has been a bit to Latin America in this technology scan, as I understand. But I can see that even in Japan, who's supplying solar lamps to Indonesia, in the past they were just getting them from Korea, and now they're beginning to think Panasonic is now looking for NGOs that can distribute the lamps for them. So it seems like that also could be kind of, and looking at our technology scan, looking at what are the, the big companies doing, and, are there any out there like Panasonic that are looking for NGOs? I didn't get a sense from them that they're just looking for NGOs within Japan. Of course, that might be their preference. Based in Japan, finding Japanese NGOs that help them in this kind of venture. But anyway, I think there's a lot of linkages between kind of what's going on out there, and I think kind of the process that we're providing here can be very helpful collectively. And then just finally, one of the things that's coming out of the discussions here is that I'm hearing for the first time from the field sort of a feeling of the need for a call similar to this that would happen periodically with all the All Lights villages, not just to share what they're doing, but to sort of strategize around issues and challenges that they're having. And I'll finish there. I know some of you it's quite late where you are. So is this back over to you, Donald, or?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Phillips. Jim, any last thoughts, words before we end the meeting? Thanks, Dr. Phillips.
Only to express my great appreciation to everybody on the call for their continued thoughts, and I would ask you if you're going, I would ask everybody on the call to do one favor for us, which is to overshare, to put everything possible on these documents. If for whatever reason you can't get to the documents, then just email the information to us or to Donald, and we'll get it posted somehow. But I think the biggest thing that today's conversation reinforced was how much better this can be when we're all really actively collaborating. So I would just ask you to continue to do that and to do more of it, and to not worry as much about whether it's worth sharing or whether it's useful, but just get it out there, because it may spark a thought in somebody else that's very useful and something that never occurred to the person who had the information.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks, Jim, and thanks everyone for coming. Have a good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Everyone, care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.